Hey guys, it's ItsSMOGONdevo. Finally back with some more content for you. I know it's been a long time and I'm sorry, I just had a lot of stuff going on that I needed to take care of. But we're finally back and I've got a lot of stuff planned for you. Unfortunately, because of all the stuff I was dealing with in the background, I do have to cut my Jungle Cup content a little short. So what I'm working on right now is I still have a few practice battles that I'm going to try to finish editing tonight right after I get this video out for you. So I don't think I'll be able to get out the 6 or 7 or so that I initially intended. It's because I have a lot less time now. The good news is though that, good news if you want to consider it good news, but I still haven't finished my remote jungle tournament or my freestyle tournament. We're lagging on the last rounds there, just little bit of issues in my lobby, I guess, with some of the matchups being able to be completed. But they should be wrapped up soon within the next 2 days. So I'll try to get the remote tournament up if I can fit the time in. Definitely will have that freestyle tournament up. But my local Jungle Cup tournament is actually tomorrow. So you'll get to see that one soon. Hopefully I'll be able to have it all ready after I finish it. The night of or the day after. So I'll try to get that to you as soon as I can. And once I get all of that stuff done, we'll be able to just fully focus on the Mirror Cup for you. The Mirror Cup's going to be kind of different, but I guess I'll jump into that a little bit after I finish explaining this stuff. But yeah, basically I will get my Jungle Cup content out to you as soon as I can. And I'm sorry about the delay, just stuff happens sometimes, but I promise I'm going to try to be more active again and fully focused on this channel. I want to be very dedicated to getting out some content, and I have a lot of stuff planned for the Mirror Cup. So I guess with that, we can kind of segue into this video and what I'm going to do for you here. So this video is going to be about the Mirror Cup. I actually meant to get this out to you a long time ago. I had prepped all of my notes, I prepped all the graphics and did everything and just had it sitting, but again, stuff came up. So I guess I'm going to finally record this video. I'm going to go through the notes I have put up here. I think I can offer a bit more feedback now as well because I've gotten used to a lot of this stuff, doing a little bit of practice battles here and there. Oh, one more thing actually, if you guys are interested in any of the teams I start to run or mess around with throughout seasons, go ahead and follow me on Twitter. I tend to leak a lot of the teams I'm messing around with early. That's the best place to get a feel for them. Like I have a few regionals teams that I've been messing around with, put them up over there, and a few Twilight squads and stuff like that. So follow me on Twitter. The link will be in the video description. It's a great way to reach me as well, if you don't want to go through the hassle of joining Discord or I'm not responding on YouTube. If you need to reach me really quick, then Twitter's a great way to do that. Yeah, I'm going on a tangent again. So let's break down this video, what I'm going to be covering here. Mirror Cup feature. So what I'm going to do, long overdue, I'm going to break down what the Mirror Cup is. I'm pretty sure most of you will have an understanding of what it is by now, so I won't spend too much time there. And then I'm going to go through all of the cups and give you some of my impressions, talk about some of the changes that have happened, and yeah, give you some more feedback based on my personal opinions and tell you what I think about all the cups. So to assist me with that analysis, I am going to be referencing a PvPoke article and a Reddit write-up from one of the members of the Discord server. I'll link those both below, but they're basically going to help me throughout the analysis. I'm going to go through those and then give my personal opinions. I've made notes on some of the important things I want to cover. Yes, I'll give you some personal opinions and then kind of talk about things I'm curious about or interested in the cups or with specific mon. And then after that, I'm going to tell you if I think I'm going to tell you if a cup is worth your time or if it's competitive, like if it's something you should actually invest your time in. There are a few where I think that there is definitely a lot of potential, and then others where I think you should just try and avoid. One note, I actually did not participate in all of these cups. I actually only started playing from Tempest onward. I meant to play Twilight, but I honestly just kind of forgot the day of the tournament when it was too late by the time I realized I was supposed to be there. Yeah, back then I wasn't really into PvP, but basically starting from Tempest, when I actually went to my first tournament, I started getting really into it. So some of my feedback for those earlier cups, at least when I was writing these notes, was a little misplaced, but I've practiced in a few of them now, so I have a little bit of a better understanding. But take that with a grain of salt, or take that how you will, I guess. This video is more of an impressions video. I'm going to try to make it less analytical like my previous cup impressions and analysis videos. So also take that in mind. So yeah, why don't we actually just jump into the Mirror Cup now and start covering this stuff. So the Mirror Cup, before we jump into the first cup we're going to be looking at, I guess it's important to tell you what the Mirror Cup actually is. I expect a lot of you to be fully aware of what it is by now. It has been quite a little while since the announcement was first put out there, but basically the Mirror Cup, it's not a new cup, it's all the old cups. So basically you have a chance to compete in any of the previous cups, even including Jungle and Rainbow, even though they're pretty recent. But you can go back all the way to Boulder, Twilight, Tempest, whatever you guys want. Your community can host as many as they want. You can only earn, obviously, a weighted cup for one of these tournaments, so you should try to choose that one intelligently, unless you're feeling really lucky. But yeah, you basically can compete in every single one of the cups, which is pretty cool. Yeah, admittedly, I was kind of disappointed by this. I thought it was a little silly, but I do like it now. It's kind of fun to be able to go back to a lot of these older cups, some more than others, but we'll get into that for sure. So yeah, that's the Mirror Cup. Very interesting. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I've done a ton of battles in a bunch of random cups. I don't actually have everything powered up, believe it or not. I still don't have a Medicham. I've been getting a lot of questions about that one, but looks like I'm going to be forced to power it up. I'm actually, for my remote lobby, we're all doing a Twilight Cup. That was one they picked, and my lobby got stuck with Boulder Cup, so I'll definitely be powering up the Medicham. And at my locals, I think we're also doing a Twilight and a Regionals, so got a lot of stuff that I'm excited to mess around with there. And again, follow me on Twitter. You can check out some of the regional teams I've been looking at. I'll try to get some practice videos up for you there as soon as we get past this little hurdle of Jungle Cup stuff I have lined up. But that shouldn't take too much longer. Without further ado, we're going to jump into the Boulder Cup stuff. That's going to be the first cup we look at. Alright, so the Boulder Cup over here. Previously, Medicham and Skarmory hailed over this meta. In that respect, not a whole lot has changed, but there actually has been quite a few changes in relation to this cup. The most notable thing, prior to, there weren't a whole lot of Skarmory counters that were accessible, but since then we actually have gotten quite a few things like Probo Pass, but I'll get into that as well. Medicham's definitely just busted in this meta with Power Up Punch. Skarmory barely even stands a chance against it now. It's kind of ridiculous, but one of the biggest changes we got since then is we've had a whole ton of move rebalances. I put those up on the screen for you now, but yeah, there was like that huge wave of like little updates they made for PvP. Like I remember Confusion got changed. It's really awesome now. A ton of other stuff though, I kind of just have them listed on the screen. Like Smackdown changing was great. Ice Shard was great. Razor Leaf is one of the most famous examples probably. Body Slam was great. You know, just a ton of changes. Side Shock too. Shadow Claw was a big one as well. Yeah, these were really, really cool just in the aspect of PvP. It's definitely shaped a lot of metas going further, and I'm glad a lot of these changes were made. It made some of the moves that just sucked a lot better. So I'll just have these up on the screen for you to kind of see really briefly. Again, I'm going to have the links in the description for the Reddit post that I'm pulling these off of. Two separate things, one from PvPoke and one from Reddit. Definitely check out the full articles. They're really great resources for you guys to have. So I don't want to spend too much time on the actual move rebalances, but it was worth noting, so that's that. So besides actual moves changing, what else really changed in this meta? So I put up a little graphic to the part of the post that I'm referencing. I don't want to just go through everything here, so I've made some notes on the important things I want to highlight here. So let's go through that. In terms of new Pokemon that have been added, Gallade, very, very awesome addition. Bastiodon, Gastrodon, I guess I initially put here, but I've since looked at it and I don't really think it's going to do much for you here. But another thing that is going to be great is Probo Pass. Jirachi is going to be cool. Lucario's kind of interesting, but perhaps not all that great. But I think Gallade and Gastrodon, Gallade and Bronzong as well as Probopass and Jirachi have been excellent additions to this meta. Or so they would have been if Medicham wasn't so stupidly broken. Moves, there have been a few move reshuffling on a few Mon. Some of them are pretty relevant. Donphan has received Charm, and it serves a very interesting role because of that. It's actually one of the few things that can beat Medicham in the 2-shield scenario. Although, I don't really find it that impressive because if you run Play Rough Earthquake and not Heavy Slam, you actually force 0 shields from Medicham. So you just burn 2 and Medicham gets to keep both of its shield while your Donphan is whittled away. So it's not the greatest thing, but it certainly is there. Medicham is completely busted in this cup. I think it has a 93.5% win rate in the 2-shield scenario, which is higher than Gardevoir's in Nightmare, and you'll see why that's crazy later. It's horrible. So Donphan with Charm does gain some relevance, unfortunately, because of that. Another thing that's kind of interesting is Claydol has Earth Power. That'll give it interesting matchups versus the Steel types. It's cool, but again, Ice Punch on Medicham is going to hurt it, so take that as you will. Bronzong has Psyshock and Bulldoze, and those 2 moves are absolutely fantastic for this cup, and I think it's going to be a very relevant Mon because of that. Blaziken, I guess I made a note of this initially, gets Blaze Kick and Blast Burn, which is a kind of a cool set, but it's a little misplaced in this meta because of Skarmory, where it's just going to get shredded. Not to mention the primary Confusion users, Jirachi and Bronzong, don't care about Blaziken's counter or fire moves. It's just gonna, they're just gonna annihilate it before it has a chance to make use of them. So let's forget about Blaziken there. Another excellent addition though is Swampert with Hydro Cannon. Swampert, Medicham, and Skarmory have pretty much solidified their place as the trio in Boulder. They're all absolutely fantastic. Hydro Cannon is a completely busted move, and now Swampert is a real force even outside of this meta. You're going to see it everywhere on regionals strictly because of this one move. It's crazy. Of course, we have Medicham with Power Up Punch. That's what has basically broken this meta. It's not the most fun thing to go into for like a competitive experience anymore. Medicham has nearly a 90% win rate in the 1-shield scenario, and again that 93% in the 2-shield scenario. It's not something you're gonna want to experience, but if you're like me and you got stuck with it, there we are. Another thing I kind of noted on initially was Nidoking and Nidoqueen with Earth Power. Since then I don't really think they're going to be that relevant. So if I had to select a few of these, I guess Donphan with Charm, Bronzong with Psyshock and Bulldoze is going to be cool. Swampert with Hydro Cannon is messed up. Medicham with Power Punch is disgusting. That's pretty much the move shakeups you're going to be looking at here. So let's take a step back and kind of reflect on that. I don't think it's going to come as a surprise, but I think Medicham is way too oppressive and this meta is way too centralized around it. There's hardly anything that can reliably beat Medicham. Half of the things that are beating it in the 2-shield scenario are actually just going to be at a shield deficit by the end of it. They have to burn 2 and they can only take 1 or none from Medicham, with one exception. Gallade. Gallade, if it hits its breakpoint, can actually get you to where you want to go versus Medicham with Confusion, so that's pretty cool. But then it's just going to get bodied by Skarmory, Bronzong, and Jirachi, so I'm not a fan of this meta. There's a few interesting changes that I like, but I would try to avoid it. Some of the interesting things besides Medicham being ridiculous. Oh, by the way, the 3 things that actually beat it, yes, there's only 3 things that actually beat it in the 2-shield scenario. Torterra, Donphan, and Gallade. Gallade can do it with Charm as well, but if you have that Confusion breakpoint, it's much better in my opinion. So it's a bulk point on Medicham's HP, as well as I think a Confusion breakpoint. I haven't really looked into the Confusion damage that much, but I prefer Gallade out of all of these just because it forces Medicham to match its shields, and it's the only thing in this group that does that. Otherwise, and it still wins too, so it's really cool. So Gallade's going to be really interesting here. Besides that, the Confusion users, Claydol, Gallade again, and Jirachi are all really awesome. Claydol and Jirachi specifically, more so... Oh, I said Claydol, I meant Bronzong. Yeah, Bronzong specifically, it's able to beat Skarmory as long as it's a relatively bulky one in the one shield, and it can beat Medicham in the one shield. So it's definitely a solid choice there. Swampert with Hydro Cannon is crazy. It's going to basically beat everything in this cup besides Medicham and Torterra. It's kind of ridiculous. It even beats Skarmory with Hydro Cannon. So you're going to see Swampert everywhere. So give my thoughts on the cup. I understand the nostalgia, and I guess people feel that they missed out initially on this cup. I can understand that, but if we just look at this cup, it's not healthy. Medicham is way too centralizing and horrible for this meta. With Power Up Punch, it's... I mean, like, you're basically bringing 5 Medicham counters, or 4 Medicham counters and something to keep Skarmory at bay. Like, it's too much. This is not a healthy meta at all. So, if I'm giving you my opinion, I really do believe that the balance in this meta is very low. There's been a decent amount of change though, and the accessibility, I mean, really the only thing you can't just get is a Jirachi, but I think Bronzong is a bit better for this meta anyways than Jirachi. It also wins the head-to-head if you have Bulldoze, but yeah, really that balance factor, I heavily sympathize with that. I would never rank this cup. I would go into it if you just want to have fun, maybe go back to it and experience what it's like again, but try and stay away from this from a competitive aspect. Alright, next up is the Twilight Cup. I'm just going to say it right away, but this is my favorite cup out of all the cups we currently have at our disposal. This one's really cool. Again, I almost started my PvP series, or my PvP, what would you call it, adventures I guess, at this cup, but I totally forgot about the tournament and I just kind of didn't show up because it was too late by the time I realized I had that tournament today. But this would have been my start, so I'm really excited that I get another chance to go back to it. From what I remember, Croak, Venomoth, the Dark Poisons, and Azu were all key players. Interestingly, this meta actually has seen a ton of change with like new additions in terms of Mon and Move, and yet it still manages to maintain a ton of balance, and it's really impressive and really fun. This is probably the most balanced meta out of everything, even more balanced than regionals in my opinion. Obviously in my notes I hadn't really messed around with a lot of team building, but since then I've been team building a whole lot for this meta and regionals as well. But I can never find myself finding a completely balanced team for this cup. There's always something you're weak to. I find myself settling for like 2 answers to most things. It's just really tough to make a completely balanced team. I don't think it's possible. And that's just a testament to how balanced this meta actually is. There's always something that you're going to be weak to. I mean, you can choose to make yourself strong versus everything with a relatively large hole, or just kind of okay versus everything. But not in the sense of like traditional balance where you have like 3 answers for anything. That's how you determine that you have no holes. Yeah, sorry. Very interesting cup, and I'm very excited for this one. So I guess the most obvious change is the inclusion of Charm. That's definitely shaking things up quite a bit. But specifically, you know, if we look at it, there actually haven't been any new Pokemon that have been added that are relevant for this cup, so that's really interesting. It's basically all moves that have changed this meta. So for moves, again, Charm, Clefable, Wigglytuff, Gardevoir, Granbull, and Togekiss. And Togekiss also has Ancient Power now too. But specifically out of that group, we're looking at more so Wigglytuff and Togekiss. Kind of Clefable, but it seems like Wigglytuff and Togekiss have definitely taken the spotlight in terms of Charm users. Both those two are excellent picks for this meta, and I'm actually finding a lot of my teams that I end up building with like old format ends up being weak to Wigglytuff. So you definitely got to watch out for it. It's got some pretty interesting matchups there. Shreds any of the dark types. Even the DPs have a hard time going up against it unless they're particularly bulky or run sets that make them weaker to other things though. And I think it goes pretty even with Azu too. So Yeah, even beats even beats Venomoth in the 2-shield scenario, which we know from Jungle Cup. Really cool, really cool. Other changes, Venomoth. You're still going to be rocking that legacy Poison Fang Venomoth here, but now it actually has access to Silver Wind. And both Silver Wind and Ancient Power are boosting moves now. That's something we didn't have before, and it's pretty interesting. Silver Wind costs a lot less energy than Bug Buzz. It's only one more confusion than Poison Fang, so Venomoth picks a bit more versatility up there, where it's able to use that bug move to fend off some of the dark types that are going to try to switch in on it. And yeah, they definitely don't want to take that Silver Wind. T-Tar being one of the most prominent answers to Venomoth, if you can luckily find one under 1500 with Smackdown. Yeah, it just gets shredded by those Silver Winds. Umbreon doesn't even want to take them. It's crazy. Another interesting move for this cup is Acid Spray. Quite a few things actually get it. Victory Bell. I think you might prefer Venusaur, but Victory Bell having that Acid Spray is kind of cool. Alolan Muck, and that's a huge one. Alolan Muck's probably the most prominent Acid Spray user in this cup. Two other things are Quillfish and Tentacruel. For me, jury's not out on whether they actually want Acid Spray. I think Quill will probably still want its Sludge Wave. Tentacruel, not sure about it. It can probably function with either. I can't think of a whole ton of situations besides like a Venusaur matchup in the Zero Shield where Sludge Wave is even relevant anyways. And then Poison Jab and Acid Spray can usually circumvent the same thing for whatever you need, but primarily you're just Hydro Pumping with Tentacruel anyways. So those are some really cool changes. A minor change is Nidoqueen, and Nidoqueen got Earth Power. I think Nidoqueen had some relevance, like one of the Toxicroak subs in the past, but I don't really fully remember it. So I just wanted to make a note of it, I guess. Yeah, Charm is definitely the most interesting change for this meta, and it's definitely shooken things up quite a bit with Wigglytuff and Togekiss. So let me give you my thoughts on the actual meta. Again with Charm, you know, Toxicroak might be slightly phased out. I can definitely see teams being able to use No Croak now with Charm. Wigglytuff has an exceptional matchup versus the Dark Poisons, and a lot of them actually can't beat it. Amok needs like a very particular set of IVs that has to be pretty bulky, and that's something that's really hard to obtain on an Alolan Muck, just because the only way to get it for Great League is through trade. So if you're trading your friends, chances are you guys are Ultra or Best Friend. Your floor is a lot lower now, so it's very hard to actually get where you need to. And then Skuntank just like loses versus, I think it's Wigglytuff or Togekiss, I can't remember right now. Unless it opts to run Crunch and Flamethrower instead of Sludge Bomb and Flamethrower, then it can't beat Azu, so it's a whole messy situation. But with Croak being slightly phased out, T-Tar actually steps up quite a bit, and it's a very great Mon here. It has a really good matchup versus Togekiss. It does lose, but it takes a ton of damage from, it takes a ton of HP off that Togekiss. It just mops the floor with Venomoth. Has great matchups with the DPs, and a great matchup with Umbreon as well. It's really cool. Tyranitar is probably one of the better dark types in this meta now. The only issue is it's not the most accessible, because well, I guess a lot of people that had Smackdown T-Tars just blasted them up. Luckily, I kept one for some reason, so I have one. Pretty excited about that. Yeah, Charm users are definitely interesting. They're kind of different than Croak. Their DP matchup isn't quite as great as Croak's. To do beat Croak, and they tend to do decently versus Azu and some other weird picks that Croak would have some tough time with, like Haunter and Wigglytuff, for example. That's good for Wigglytuff, not so good with Croak. Interesting stuff, for sure. Nidoqueen, I'm not really seeing a whole lot of play for it. I've seen it maybe on like one team. Earth Power is definitely good for it. It's going to help versus all those DPs. But with Venomoth just getting better, it's going to be hard to run it. I have to look into that one a bit more for sure. Either way, this cup feels incredibly balanced and very, very fun. I'm loving it in my testing. A lot of my battles that you'll see after this are basically featured in the Twilight Cup. And again, I have 2 cups that I will be doing for the Twilight Cup, so you'll see a lot of coverage here for that. I really recommend that you take a look at this tournament and make this your ranked cup if you can. For any local communities that still haven't decided, this is the one that I would look at. And again, the Discord server did select this cup specifically for a reason. It is the most balanced cup. Even myself in team building, that's something I like to do a lot, and I have a lot of fun with it. I can't make a completely balanced team for this meta. Maybe I'm missing something, but I always find myself weak to something. I haven't really ever experienced that with any cup, besides maybe like regionals and freestyle. But even this is like a step up from that. It's really tough. Yeah, this cup's really awesome. You guys should check it out. I'm almost tempted to do an infographic exclusively for this cup. Maybe regionals too, but yeah, I don't know if we're gonna have time to do any infographics this month for the cups. Even showcases are gonna be a little tough, but we'll see. We'll see. Get more into that later. But yeah, this cup, excellent. It's incredibly balanced. The accessibility, I would kind of agree with that. It's more like a 2-star rating there. There's a lot of things in here that are great, and unfortunately some of them aren't the easiest to grab a hold of. The easiest thing, but bordering on inaccessible, is maybe Alolan Muk, just because again you have to trade to have a usable one. Umbreon's cool, but you need Last Resort to use it fully. Togekiss, you can't get one under 1500 unless it's like from a baby account or something, or you catch a Togetic in the wild under like level 18. Venomoth with Confusion, that's really tough as well. Kind of Wigglytuff I'd consider up here too, just because it has to get powered up so high. But I think that one's worth it. I think it'll keep popping up every now and then in some future cups. So yeah, there's a few things that are a little bit tough to grab a hold of, but there are other things you can run over them, so I wouldn't worry too much there. In terms of change, yeah, the change is pretty minimal too. I'd say around 2 stars. Really, it's just down to movesets, and the most fundamental one is Charm. That's definitely shaken things up a lot. But it's really that one change that's changed things a lot. That one move change, rather. Yeah, very awesome cup. Highly competitive. 100% recommend this one to you. Okay, so the next cup over here is going to be the Tempest Cup. On my first cup, so really cool to go back to this one. Definitely brings back some feelings. So Tempest Cup. I think the Salt definitely comes back. The Salt Core. T-Last Core I think it was originally called, but I just prefer calling it the Salt Core. Yeah, there's been a few changes here. Little changes, but definitely some interesting ones. Actually, there's been quite a few new Mon added. But I don't think all of them are completely relevant. It's mostly just movesets. Again, I have all that stuff put up for you here, but I'll go through kind of the things I want to highlight. So let's talk about the Pokemon. The only one I initially kind of felt like mentioning was Magnezone. But I kind of retract that now because I don't think it's as relevant as I first thought. Especially not over Magneton. I think I would kind of prefer Magneton here. So yeah, really there hasn't been a whole lot of new Pokemon that I think are actually worth mentioning. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but for me for now, I'm not really that focused on a lot of the new Pokemon that have been added. But what I am interested in is the movesets actually. So one I kind of wanted to put out, Alolan Raichu does get Grass Knot. So it could potentially be a very good Skarmory answer with some Lapras coverage as well. Grass Knot would be great for the Mud Boys. One of them is a lot more popular and quite amazing now. I definitely don't expect that one to stand out too much though, Alolan Raichu that is. I just thought it was interesting that it gets Grass Knot, and when I first saw that moveset being added to its moveset, I immediately kind of thought of Tempest. So I thought I would give it a shout out here, mostly because it's one of my favorite Great League Pokemon. Another interesting change. Okay, not really a change, but I know when this cup was first out, Legacy Lapras with Ice Shard and Ice Beam was something that wasn't really common. It was really tough to find one, but we did have that event where Lapras became available for everyone. So Ice Shard, Ice Beam has returned. There is also Skull Bash being added to Lapras's kit, but I don't really expect that to be all that relevant here. But yeah, Ice Shard, Ice Beam, Lapras is going to be everywhere now. The most interesting change is definitely Swampert with Hydro Cannon. Told you it would be back, and here immediately is where it's relevant besides Boulder. Hydro Cannon is a busted move, and Swampert is potentially the greatest Mud Boy now. Yeah, definitely not as many changes as some of the other cups, but yeah, this cup doesn't really need any changes. So Magnezone, again, getting back to that, it might see some play, especially over Magneton, just due to accessibility and not a lot of people having that Legacy Magneton. For those wanting to run a double Electric squad, it might be an interesting option. You know, it does beat Magneton, but I do think it also performs a little worse than Magneton. Notably in that Tropius matchup. Without Magnet Bomb, it's kind of a little bit of a... Let's just say it's not the greatest thing to go up against Tropius, if I remember the Sims correctly. Again, I kind of already touched on the Alolan Shoe with Grass Knot. It's interesting for the Mud Boys, but not too sure if people will actually run it. Lapras returns with its busted moveset. I think Celio may actually be phased out. I know Lapras does also beat Swampert. I don't quite know if Celio does it, but that's definitely something to consider when you're looking at Lapras and Celio as well. Swampert with Hydro Cannon is definitely going to be making an appearance. I expect pretty much every team to run it. I don't think I'm going to run it though. I'll probably stick to the exact same team I used in the first place. The Salt Core, so that's Double Flyer, Double Electric, Tropius, and Lapras. Yeah, I'm excited to bring this team back, to say the least. This meta, despite, well, really the only change is Swampert, but this meta was already really balanced, and I really liked it. Nothing's really changed again besides Swampert. I definitely recommend this one to you. I definitely see this one having the least amount of interest for whatever reason. I guess a lot of people just didn't really love this cup, but if I'm just looking at it objectively, it's a really balanced meta, so this is definitely one you guys can jump back into and mess around with. Have fun, experiment with Swampert, that'll be cool too. You got a ton of places to mess around with Swampert. Boulder, Tempest, Regionals, like, yeah, it's interesting. I would definitely check this one out again. Alright, so jumping into this next one, we got Kingdom Cup. Oh boy, I have some feelings about this one. This was definitely my most disliked meta. You know, it already felt so centralized around Luke and kind of Bastiodon. This meta sucks. I did not like this cup at all. Probably one of my worst performing metas as well. This one just felt so encapsulating of that rock, paper, scissors feeling. Yeah, it's Lucario all day in this meta. But let me try to get rid of my salt and try to put that aside. There have been a few interesting changes, mostly in the moves again. This is kind of like a Twilight. So these changes kind of have me wanting to at least scrim in it and get back into it, mess around with a few interesting things. But more or less, it looks like the ball core is still completely untouched and amazing here. I might not even change my team. So let's check out the changes though. So I guess the two main changes, Probopass and Magnezone. Magneton already wasn't really that great here, and I don't really expect Magnezone to get much play either. Probopass though, I do think we'll see play, especially as a Bastiodon substitute. It beats Bastiodon. I think it's just worse versus Lapras or something though. I can't quite remember right now. But at the very least, for people not wanting to blast up a Bastiodon, you will have that Probopass option, and it does beat Bastiodon. People might even try to flex their shiny Steelix and not run a Bastiodon. I have one powered up from way back then, so I could always bring it back if I messed around with this meta. Again, I probably won't even change my team. So movesets though, really there's only two I wanted to go over. Blaziken, Blaze Kick, and Blast Burn. That's going to be really cool to mess around with. I always felt that Blaziken was really suffering with having any viable charge moves. I mean, Brave Bird was okay, gave you a neutral, or sorry, it gave you the mirror and something to hit Altoria with a little bit. So I'm excited to try Blaziken again. Seems like it'll be interesting with that nuke option, and even Blaziken gets a baiting option, rather. Something I'm really excited for too is Bronzong. I didn't cover Kingdom Cup, I started covering from Nightmare onwards, so you guys didn't know, but I was a huge Bronzong advocate. I messed around with it so much, and I just pushed it so hard in the Discord Go Stadium. Yeah, I love Bronzong. I still remember the breakpoint. Oh yeah, fun fact, if you guys are going to run Bronzong, you're going to want to grab one with at least 113 attack. It hits a breakpoint on Luke where if you just straight confusion, you win or tie that matchup. You can actually, it depends on the Luke's IV, so it's not really clear, but usually you'll end up winning, or at the very least tying, and it's really great there. Psyshock is awesome too for Bronzong, gives it an even better baiting tool that actually hits some things for decent damage unlike Heavy Slam. At first I kind of thought I still wanted Flash Cannon here, but Bulldoze is really great too. You actually gain the ability to tie Bastiodon with Bulldoze. Before Bronzong would just lose. So having that Bulldoze is an excellent tool for Bronzong to have. Yeah, so really the only changes are related to that ball core. So my team hasn't changed, it's just gotten better. Yeah, so Bronzong and Blaziken, probably the two highlights. Probopass is definitely interesting. As a decent Bastiodon substitute, it might be more accessible at the very least. And again, it beats Bastiodon, but yeah, it does lose that Lapras matchup, and I'm not 100% on what else it loses, but there is that. Still should beat ult, so you should be covered there at least. Yeah, again, really the best team. The ball core plus Blazong only gets better. Blaze gets Blaze Kick and Blast Burn better than its previous moves. Maybe you might want to run Brave Bird a little bit, but it still managed to find a way to make those moves work with its incredible niche at beating Luke and Bastio. Song gets really awesome with those two moves. So I guess, yeah, if I were to recommend this meta, I still wouldn't recommend it to you guys. I still find it pretty unbalanced. I mean, there's been a few key changes here that are kind of interesting and have me wanting to go back to mess around here. But if we're being honest, this was never a healthy meta, and I don't think any of these changes have significantly balanced it enough. It still is Lucario dominating this whole cup, and it's not the most fun thing to experience. But go ahead, go back to it, have fun, mess around with some stuff here. It's still really unbalanced and kind of inaccessible because of Bastiodon and Luke. And the changes are very minimal and not really impactful enough to balance this meta out. And jumping into the next one, we have Nightmare Cup. Feels weird to get back to this one after what feels like so long. The start of my channel started with this cup, so I have a special kind of love for this cup. Which makes it all the more painful. I mean, nothing has really changed here in terms of new Pokemon, but there definitely has been a substantial change in terms of moves. So, what I had come to love about this cup has been washed away, or charmed away, with the new move Charm. One single move has basically destroyed this cup. Disappointing. Again, with the Mon, there have been a lot of legendary additions, but this was the first cup where they started implementing those bans, so no legendaries are allowed here, so that doesn't even matter, so there is no new Mon that are really worth considering. But the moves. Let's just get the bad one out of the way. Charm. Gardevoir with Charm in the one shield scenario has a 91% win rate. There is only a handful of things that even mess around with Gardevoir, and its win rate goes up in the two shields, so it gets even worse. Bad meta. Very, very bad meta. It's disappointing. But you know, getting that one out of the way, there have been a few kind of cool changes, or changes that would have been cool if Gardevoir didn't exist. Hypno gets the elemental punches. This is, again, man, this would have been a great place for it to experiment with those punches. Interesting coverage that you can get from all of them. Not sure which one you prefer right now, but mess around, I guess. Bronzong gets Bulldoze and Psyshock. That would have been cool, at least Psyshock. Definitely needed that kind of neutral coverage for something, and I guess even Bulldoze to hit some of the other Psychic types that were giving it competition. Yeah, that's basically it for like subtle changes. Giving my thoughts. Incredibly busted meta, and I think it's highly centralized around Gardevoir. 91% win rate, guys. Like, with a win rate like that, you already know a meta is not healthy, and this is no exception. You know, maybe Scout's Honor, get rid of Gardevoir, you can have fun with this cup. I wouldn't rank this one, I would say clear of it. Hypno and Bronzong could have been cool, but Gardevoir... yeah, I don't even think I'm going to practice in this meta or even look at it at all. It's just... I already don't like Boulder, so you can tell I'm not going to like this one, which just kind of hurts. So stay away from this one, it's not going to be what you're looking for. So let's get into one of the metas that I'm actually pretty excited for. Regionals. This one's going to be really awesome. There's been a ton of changes, and basically a lot of the stuff that has been built up for, besides Nightmare, because I think Nightmare was not included in what was allowed in Rainbow. But a lot of the changes that I've kind of been hyping out, and some of the ones that are potentially unbalancing, find a place to actually get balanced in regionals, and it's really cool. This was always an interesting landscape. I didn't get to compete. You know, I missed 2 cups, and I didn't do that well in Kingdom, so that probably affected my actual invite eligibility or whatever, but I never got to compete in it, so I'm excited to have the chance to do it now. It's very similar to Freestyle in a way, and I've been having a lot of fun there, and I find it really cool. So yeah, this is a great chance to go back to that. It's basically all of the cups up until now, with the exception of Nightmare. So any of the types that were permitted in that cup are allowed here again. Pseudo Freestyle, if you want to think of it. There have been quite a few interesting changes here that, thankfully, most likely due to the Freestyle-esque, all-inclusive environment, actually don't unbalance this meta, and they actually make it kind of interesting. With a really interesting change, actually, and Medicham is kind of phased out a bit. Great to see with the addition of Swampert. But getting into the changes, in terms of Mon, 3 of the most relevant ones that I think you will definitely be seeing. Probopass. Oh boy, Probopass. I listed Magnezone again, but I'm going to retract that. I don't think Magnezone will pop up all that much. Probopass for sure, and Jirachi. People are going to flex that Jirachi on you. You're going to see it. I personally think Bronzong is a bit better. I don't want to get into the specifics too much here, but maybe I'll make a video on Jirachi and Bronzong for a showcase even. That would be cool. But yeah, you're going to see Jirachi get flexed on you. It's going to be everywhere. Besides those 2 Mon, there have been a lot of moveset shuffling around that is going to be interesting here. Swampert with Hydro Cannon. This is another place where it pops up. It's a great Mon. You're going to see it whenever it has a chance to pop up. I listed H.U. here again too with Grass Knot. I don't think H.U.'s really gonna make an appearance. I mean, Grass Knot's really tough here, and with Medicham already kind of phasing out, its niche is a little misplaced, and you really just don't need H.U., let alone a Grass Knot variant that loses access to that wild charge. But Bronzong again pops up. Bronzong's definitely really good with the Psyshock, it's crazy. Here I think you want Flash Cannon and not Bulldoze, despite what I've been saying in the other 2 cups. But Flash Cannon gives you a better chance to do well against Azu and Swampert specifically, so you're going to see it used there. But I guess Bulldoze gives you that Jirachi head-to-head if that's something you want. And Bronzong's actually pretty well positioned for this meta. It's basically got a lot of things checked out. Clefairy and Wigglytuff together with Charm are going to be really cool. I think Gallade might get a resurgence as well with Charm, but more so with Confusion. It had a lot of success in the last cup because of that. A slightly better Azu matchup because of that Leaf Blade, but a worse Alt and Skarm matchup where Bronzong and Jirachi kind of do really well there. It's also getting a Community Day move in a few days from now, so Gallade might show up quite a bit, especially building off the hype of that Community Day. So let's give my thoughts now. Some pretty requested additions, actually, at least in the case of Probopass. A lot of people didn't really have that Bastiodon. I think Probopass was actually added like halfway into regionals taking place, so some people had it, some people didn't. Now everyone has it, so no one can complain. A lot of people really wanted Probo when the meta was first coming out, and I don't think that's really going to change. I mean, it has a few key differences between Bastiodon, like I think it ties Venusaur is one of the examples where it's definitely really great, and of course it does beat Bastiodon, while boasting very similar coverage to Bastiodon. It's especially relevant here with the wider and more diverse field. Again, Jirachi is definitely going to show up. People are going to flex that boy on you. And Swampert's going to pop up everywhere. Swampert's actually kind of the reason why Medicham is getting phased out. They have incredibly similar coverage. They both lose to Azu. They both lose to Venusaur. They blow up Bastiodon and Probopass. Yeah, they got some pretty overlapping coverage, and it's tough to run both on a 6, I find. Advantage of Medicham is that it just beats Swampert, but Swampert is a lot better actually versus Azu. So they're similar. Perhaps their coverage is a bit too overlapping to run both, especially in the face of Venusaur, which with given the charm uses and a bunch of other stuff like a Swampert, actually it's on the rise. So yeah, with Venusaur being popular, it's hard to run both because Venusaur is going to be on everyone's team, I think. Yeah, this was an already very balanced meta. Charm is going to shake things up a little bit. I'm definitely seeing less people running it. I guess with Vina, Azu, and Skarm on a lot of teams, it's harder for Charm to find room, but it definitely can be successful here. Oh, and with Cham being a little bit phased out, Charm it's struggling to find its proper niche, I guess, but it's definitely something that's interesting. Oh yeah, Jirachi and Bronzong might be putting it down a bit too, but Bronzong's really cool in general here. It's got a whole ton of checks. Does decently well versus Azu and Swamp if you can dodge Hydro Pump or Earthquake. It's got Skarmory, Alt, Medicham, Venusaur. It's got a ton of weird matchups, and they're definitely kind of cool choices that you should be considering. Yeah, it looks like a very fun meta and pretty complex. I definitely recommend this to anyone looking for a real challenge. It's a lot more to consider for you than your typical cup because it's akin to freestyle, so this is going to get most players out of their comfort zone, I find, and allow them to experience something genuinely fun and actually relatively balanced. It's going to be a good experience for you as a player to participate in a cup like this, especially if you've never done a freestyle series. I highly recommend this to anyone looking for a challenge, to say the very least. Check out regionals. I'm very excited to participate in myself, and I've wasted way too much time team building for it. Check out my Twitter and you can see 3 teams that I am messing around with. Maybe I'll pin them so they're a bit easier to spot out, but yeah, awesome meta. Go ahead and check it out. Okay, so for the last 2, I kind of just wanted to group them together. I don't really want to spend a lot of time talking about them for obvious reasons. So we have Rainbow Cup and Jungle Cup. This is going to be quick. So for Jungle, there's not much to say. I've already covered so much of it in depth, pre and post Wigglytuff. You can check out all of my videos there on it. It's so recent. Are you really going to host another Jungle Cup tournament? Like, I think you'd be doing yourself a disservice at this point. You should be trying to experience something different, or something actually a bit more competitive and challenging for yourself. Jungle Cup is very fresh, and I don't know, it's just boring in my opinion. I wouldn't go back to it. And we already know all the changes. We've seen them in full effect happen right before our eyes a few weeks ago. Rainbow, you know, similarly, it's very recent, and honestly, not a whole lot has changed. The most interesting thing I found for it is Blastoise and Lapras getting Skull Bash, so yeah, Rainbow, there's not a lot to say either. It's not much. I really did enjoy Rainbow Cup as a meta, and it was probably one of my favorite cups, and I did find it relatively balanced, so there's nothing really inherently wrong with it. Maybe Jungle's a little less balanced, but Rainbow Cup was pretty balanced in my opinion. It wouldn't be horrible to go back and try it out if you miss it, but honestly, it's just so recent. I don't think it would really be the most exciting thing for you to do. We just had this meta. It's not that much longer from Jungle. Use this opportunity, Mirror Cup, to go back and experience some of the older and healthier metas and just have a fun time. You know, okay, if Rainbow Cup is having a fun time for you, by all means go back to it. Go for it. It's not an unbalanced meta, and you can find some good competitive value in it, so all the power to you, I guess. But yeah, that's my 2 cents on Jungle and Rainbow. I guess I would try to avoid them. Alright, yeah, so that's a good enough look, I guess, at all the individual cups. I'm going to give you some closing thoughts, I guess. So here's a few things, here's a few of the cups that I think are going to be really great, and a few that you should probably avoid, and then some kind of in the middle. So I think the good cups that you definitely should be seeking out: Twilight, Tempest, and Regionals. Those are going to be the best 3 competitive cups for my personal opinion. I think they're going to be great. The 2 most fun ones are probably Twilight and Regionals. I think Tempest is fun too, but I guess due to a lack of real change, you know, really it's just Swampert, it might seem a little bit less interesting to some people, but still a very healthy landscape. If you don't have Tropius, you can use Abomasnow, but that might set some people back as well. But yeah, really cool meta there. Definitely recommend you check out all 3. I have 3 in the okay, but one of them I think is definitely a step down and more in the bad category. So okay, Rainbow and Jungle. You know, actually I think Jungle I would kind of step down into the more closer to bad. But yeah, Rainbow's okay. It's balanced. It's just recent and I guess kind of boring for some people because of that. But there's nothing really inherently wrong with it. Jungle, I think there is a slight balancing issue, just because Vigoroth is kind of centralizing around the meta, and you can tell it is just because one of the best strategies for this cup is called the Vig Safe Switch strat. You lead bad, you switch into Vigoroth, and then half the things that are normally able to beat Vigoroth lose because it gets an energy advantage. Vigoroth is a little unhealthy for the meta, if we're being honest. So I would kind of put it a little lower than Rainbow, but not horrible like the last 2. But another thing I'm going to put up here is Kingdom Cup. I think Kingdom Cup is lower than Jungle. It's definitely a very unbalanced meta and not the most fun because of that Lucario centralization. So I guess like Rainbow, Jungle, and then Kingdom in terms of like a ranking of the okay metas. Last one is the bad floor. These are the ones that you should just try and avoid at all costs. Boulder and Nightmare. If there's a cup that has a mon with something like a 90% or higher win rate, you have to know that that meta is unhealthy. It really shows, especially in these 2 cups. It's not fun. Unfortunately, I did get stuck with Boulder, so you will see me covering it. Regrettably, but yeah, so I would try and stay away from that. So yeah, again, Kingdom's in between okay and bad. Not quite as bad as Boulder and Nightmare, but still not that great. I'd personally try and avoid all 3. I'd also maybe not look into Rainbow or Jungle just because of how recent they are. Twilight, Tempest, Regionals are all very fresh because they've had some time to pass, and they're very balanced metas with a few interesting changes. I have a particular bias towards Twilight. But yeah, any of those three are going to be awesome. Regionals as well, I think it's going to be really, really great. Pretty interesting. Might be a bit better for you than Tempest if you're looking for a bit more diversity there. Because it's just so diverse. So yeah, that's my take on it. But we do have to get into something else here now. I don't think I can realistically cover all of these cups to the same standard as I have been doing since Rainbow. Just time limits, and there is, for me, and I guess even for some of the viewers, there's a lack of interest in some of these cups like Nightmare, specifically in Boulder maybe. It's just hard to cover all this kind of stuff in like a really quality kind of way. So in terms of infographics and showcases, I don't know exactly what's going to happen this month. Either I'm doing no infographics or one or two, I guess. I might just avoid infographics entirely. I don't know. It's hard for this band. There's too much to cover. I don't know which ones that are worth covering. I guess Twilight and Regionals would be the most worthwhile to cover, because I feel like those ones will be kind of fan favorites and are all really great metas and kind of interesting. But yeah. Showcases are a different story. I think I can definitely try to work in a few. Like I already made a note on that one. What was I talking about again? I don't remember. But there was one I was kind of talking about earlier. So showcases will be a little bit weirder. I don't know if they'll be as in-depth as previously, because my past ones have been really reliant on my own personal infographics for like context. But yeah, I'll try to do some showcases in a different style, maybe just talking about the mon within its place in the cup a little less in-depth, I guess. So we'll see what happens there, but I'll try to do a few showcases every now and then for anything that I think definitely deserves the recognition. In terms of coverage, I'm going to try my best to scrim and mess around in all of the cups. Yes, even Boulder and Nightmare a little bit. Just to produce content for you guys and give you a feel for like everything that's going on with this cup. I want to give you guys some content for everything, some diverse content. And you know, this is a really great opportunity to do that, so I'm going to try and take advantage of it. Yeah, I guess biggest thing is no infographics. It's just way too hard to cover them. And showcases might appear, but in like a sort of a stripped down version of what I am used to putting out now. But I am interested in doing a few for sure. Yeah, this is a really weird cup, so it's going to have some weird coverage on my side for sure. At first I was kind of disappointed by it, like I said at the start of the video, but I am kind of really enjoying it now. There's a lot of cool things to mess around with. I love Twilight and I love Regionals. They've been really fun for me. Hey, so I meant to get out some practice videos for you as well as part of this video, but I'm realizing that if I want to upload it fast enough, I might have to actually skip that. So a little bit of bad news there, I'm sorry, but I do have a ton of Mirror Cup related videos, or at least practice videos that I recorded ready to actually upload, or rather edit in bulk, so I will get that stuff out to you as soon as I can. I'm going to cut it short this time around. I'm working on my Jungle Cup tournament video right now and my freestyle video right now, and I should be able to upload the last bit of my practice videos very soon. The compromise is that I have to cut the video portion, or the battle portion of this video out. So I hope that's alright, but yeah, that's basically going to bring this video to a wrap. So let's just go for a quick review again. Tournaments you guys should be trying out are Regionals, Twilight, and Tempest, I think. Those ones will be pretty competitive and relatively balanced. Stay away from Boulder and Nightmare if you can. Kingdom I would try to stay away from as well, just because it's, you know, it's also pretty unbalanced in my opinion with Lucario running around, but definitely not as bad as the other two that I just mentioned. Jungle, I find it a little bit unbalanced as well. Plus it's so recent, which is kind of why I think you should stay away from Rainbow. But yeah, there you go. So that was kind of a quick look at the Mirror Cup and my initial thoughts. Maybe I'll do like a deeper look into them if there's an interest for that. I definitely have a much better opinion on a lot of these Mon and the Cups in general now. We're not going to do any infographics, I don't think. Showcases I will try to do. So Mirror Cup should be very fun and very busy month for me. But yeah, that's going to be it for the video. If you guys liked it, don't forget to leave a like. Go ahead and comment as well. Hit me up on Twitter. You guys can follow me there. I'll leave the link in the description. And yeah, don't forget to subscribe as well. Hopefully we can get the subscription count up a bit. Trying to hit 500 big goals. Maybe we'll start at 200 first, but yeah, that's going to be it for me. Take care for now, guys.